You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Good afternoon. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. From beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, I'm your host, Matt Holloway. Today is Sunday, February the 18th in the year of our Lord 2018. And we have some heavy things to cover today. We're going to try to lighten it up a bit. But with the recent shooting in Florida and other events plaguing our country, politically and culturally, we have to grip the mirror hard and address that it appears our American culture, at least as we understand it, is dying. The question is, what are we going to do today in our lives to save it? All that and more here on the HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. Stick around.
You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Mark my words.
The American people are frustrated because their elected officials don't listen. When we're home on the campaign trail, we say we listen. And yet something about this Senate floor, something about Washington, D.C., I don't know if it's the water, something in the air, the cherry blossom, but people get here and they stop listening to the American people.
What we witnessed here today in the Security Council is an insult. It won't be forgotten. It's one more example of the United Nations doing more harm than good in addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
My duty, and the sacred duty of every elected official in this chamber, is to defend Americans, to protect their safety, their families, their communities, and their right to the American dream. Because Americans are dreamers too.
I want the people of America to be able to work less for the government and more for themselves. I want them to have the rewards of their own industry. This is the chief meaning of freedom. Until we can reestablish a condition under which the earnings of the people can be kept by the people, we are bound to suffer a very severe and distinct curtailment of our liberty.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Senators, members of Congress, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. President. You had one damn job. Seriously.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the new millennial conservative resistance does indeed begin right here, right now, with you. You are listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. We are streaming right now on Facebook Live. You'll see us on YouTube and Speak Out later on today. If you want to tweet us, you can jump onto Twitter. We are at the HoloNet. And again, facebook.com/HoloNet. As always, you can find us on lanterns.buzz, home of our network and our other media affiliates. And also, theholonet.com. Now, I come to you today under unusual circumstances indeed. Normally, this live stream would find you via some of the groups that you inhabit in Facebook. Not today, though. Not today. Earlier this week, when I made a post pertaining to the Florida shooting, I was placed on a 92-hour group ban, which prevented me from utilizing group functions and sharing posts on Facebook into groups that I do not myself manage. Exactly at 4:02, that ban was lifted this morning at 8:30. Exactly at 4:02, 2 minutes after I initiated my Facebook Live transmission, I was placed under another subsequent ban for an additional 92 hours. It's longer now, out to the 25th. So I am under a 1-week ban now from accessing groups that I did not myself create on Facebook. So, as always, you'll be able to find these posted on the HoloNet group and also on the HoloNet Premiere. However, you will not be able to find these in any of the 50 or so normal groups that I share the HoloNet podcast with, and that's unfortunate. And it has come to prove that Facebook censorship is indeed alive and well. In fact, it's kicking. It's kicking. Dylan Lyles of the Defenders of American Exceptionalism, a good colleague of mine and a friend, experienced this earlier in the week when we saw the mystery of the disappearing posts on Facebook, where posts pertaining to the violent shooting and tragedy that occurred in Parkland, Florida, would suddenly disappear inexplicably from social media feeds. I myself experienced this. Not only was I placed on a ban, but the HoloNet page was temporarily unpublished. I'm checking now to confirm if we are still online, in fact, on the HoloNet Facebook page. If we are unpublished, I will republish that again as quickly as I possibly can, as quickly as the system allows me to. But we have, right now, prima facie proof that any political view pertaining to this issue, any philosophical view that does not cry out immediately for gun control legislation is in fact being censored. Is in fact being censored. It happened in real time before my very eyes as I was coming online for today's podcast. The cat is out of the bag, folks. This is a discussion that the powers who run Facebook do not want their users to have on that platform. The mask is off. Now, to give you a little bit of context, the story of the tragedy that occurred in Florida has been told over and over again. 17 confirmed dead at my last count, unless there have been additional fatalities that I have not been made aware of. Dozens wounded. One teacher was heroically defending his students. He was an assistant coach, and he was gunned down defending his students. And you're not going to hear me mention the name of the dirtbag on my show. That's something that a lot of hosts have done, and I agree with completely. Let's not make this guy famous. But the conversation that has erupted surrounding and following this tragedy is something that we need to address. And there have been many different strains of thought here. One that is driving most conservatives insane is this headlong drive to quote-unquote common sense gun control that immediately follows, sometimes during now, because the news cycle is so fast, every single shooting. We've gotten a narrative that has been soundly torn down by the likes of Ben Shapiro, by the likes of Glenn Beck, by the likes of all the major players in the conservative talk industry, that there have been 18 school shootings year to date, and they ran down the list, and it's been thoroughly debunked that while these may have been incidents in schools that involved a firearm, not all of them were lethal. Certainly not all of them were what you would classify as a school shooting per se. One rather ridiculous example where I'm glad, thank God, that everyone is all right, was that there was a policeman who was doing a presentation at a school, and a third grader gripped his firearm and accidentally caused it to discharge, harming no one, probably requiring a change of pants for everyone involved, but thank God no one was harmed. Yet this was termed as a school shooting and counted among the 18. What I alluded to in my title, that our American culture is dying, is everyone is trying to point to a flaw in the United States to ascribe this and other tragedies to. Many people are saying that gun control is necessary, that we need an assault weapons ban on anything that can be termed as an assault rifle, that there should be no way that anybody can purchase an AR-15 assault rifle in particular, and this has seemed to become the weapon of choice, if you were to believe the leftist media, for absolutely every single school shooting in Christendom. It's not the guns, folks. It's the soul of the people who own them. The individual souls behind the triggers that fired them. That is where our problem lies. And if we are to grip the mirror sincerely and with truth and question with boldness, again, the very existence of God, if we are to question this with boldness, we have to ask ourselves, are we the problem? The answer, from a cultural perspective, is indefatigably yes. We are absolutely the problem. And I turn to a story on The Blaze from Chris Enlow. He's referring to a post that went viral from a teacher in Florida, a middle school teacher, not a teacher at the particular school where the shooting took place, but the teacher, Kelly Guthrie Raley, I believe I'm pronouncing that correct, she was named Teacher of the Year at her Florida school, which is Eustis Middle School, and she said, quote, "Until we as a country are willing to get serious and talk about mental health issues, lack of available care for the mental health issues, lack of discipline in the home, horrendous lack of parental support when the schools are trying to control horrible behavior at school, oh no, not my kid, what did you do to cause my kid to react that way, lack of moral values, and yes, I'll say it, violent video games that take away any sensitivity to any compassion for others' lives, as well as reality TV that makes it commonplace for people to constantly scream in each other's faces and not value any person but themselves, we will have a gun problem in our schools. Our kids don't understand the permanency of death anymore." She went on to write, "This post wasn't about gun control. This was for me loving the crap out of people and wanting the best for them. This was about my school babies and knowing that God created each one for greatness and just wanting them to reach their future." So this post, published Thursday morning, received 700,000 reactions and nearly 600,000 shares. Now I'll talk to you about the flip side of the coin, okay? The absolute flip side of this is a post that I put up, which was slapped with an immediate ban. It's considerably less verbose, and I'm not taking away from what Kelly Guthrie Raley has to say. I agree with her wholeheartedly. I think, unrestricted access to violent video games is a problem, because from a parent's perspective, we have to own what content our children consume. We must own that. That is part of being a parent. But I'll dig more into that later. The post that I put up was, "God be with the families and community of Parkland, Florida. We have almost 40,000 homeless vets. Many of them would gladly don a uniform once again to provide armed and well-trained protection for our children. They've already sworn an oath to protect us. We have the manpower and resources to protect our schools. Gun control is not the answer we must address. is not the answer. We must address our nationwide problem with mental illness and the moral decay of our culture. We need God, and we need our veterans. That is the post that I put up that is considerably shorter, but I think follows in a similar spirit. Okay? That one got torn down off of Facebook like that. Interesting, isn't it? So no more pissing, moaning, and complaining about how Facebook doesn't like me. What we're going to get to today, and we're going to be a little bit light on the brakes, I'm going to warn you in advance, so buckle in, folks. We're going for the long haul. What we're going to get into is a bit of an analysis on why we are where we are. And I did some research on this. A little bit of background on me. I come from a single-parent household. My mom worked 3 jobs at a time at one point in order to put food on the table, roof over our heads. And I'm grateful every day for how much wholesale arse she kicked in order to supply food and a roof over our head and keep us alive. I mean, it's a hard world for a single parent out there, for a single mother or for a single father. And she did it with aplomb. All right? But economic news release from the United States Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, states, under families and employment. Here we are. I lost it on the page. Sorry. Okay. 49% of married families had both parents working. Okay, how nuts is that? 49% had both parents working. This compares to the 19% where fathers do all the work, 7% where the mothers do all the work. So work that through. 51% of the time, at least one parent is home on a consistent basis in order to nurture our children, care for them, and teach them in the way that they should go, if you want to go biblical. 49% of the time, either both parents work full-time or part-time, or some conglomeration thereof, and some parents out there can really make that work. And if you can, God bless you, because you are a titan. Okay? My in-laws did that. Both parents worked, but both parents managed to come home and be parents. And my sister-in-law and my wife turned out incredible. But I have to believe, in my heart of hearts, that is the exception, not the rule. Because that takes some truly great parenting to be able to compress everything that you need to do with your children in order to have them be a complete human being, all the knowledge that you need to bestow, all the order that you need to give into their lives, all the love, all the nurturing, all the care, that you can pack that into like 4 or 5 hours a day after you've gone and done your grind for 8 or 9 hours or 12 hours or 6 hours or whatever it is. 49% of kids have both parents work. Now, of that percentage, it's anecdotal. How many do you think are doing it right? Where they're actually raising their kids up right? And how many are paying for some 19-year-old down at the daycare to essentially raise their kids for them? Or even if, never minding daycare, are just going from babysitter to babysitter to babysitter just to get by. Think of the single parents out there who have to rely on professional childcare and have to rely on babysitters. Sometimes not the best babysitters humanly possible, because you got to put food on the table and they're the only one you can afford, or they're the only one that lives near you. So we're entrusting the formative years of our children's lives to people that we might not know as well as we think. You hear every day about horror stories coming out of daycare centers and things like that, and I'm not coming online here to sit here and bash daycare. What I'm pointing out is that we are not the ones raising our damn kids. And we're surprised when crap like this happens. I mean, every single day, it seems, I turn on the news, and the only thing I can say to myself is,
holy shit, dude.
Every single day. You scroll down your social media feed, and how often do you see just some snot-nosed, 8-year-old kid beating the ever-loving snot out of his mother while everybody else in the McDonald's looks on? Aghast, not sure what to do. Holy crap, man. If I even thought hard about doing that as a kid, my jaw would be relocated from the rest of my body, okay? And my mother was not a violent woman by any stretch of the imagination, nor my grandparents, who raised me a good portion of my childhood. I was very blessed. But who the heck beats down their own parent? This teacher has it completely on the nose. There's a lack of discipline in our households. A lack of engagement from us as parents to our children. We have now, since the I would say this collapse probably started around the 60s and 70s. So we have 2-3 generations now where the family, the household in the United States is broken for all intents and purposes. And I'm not hearkening back to Leave It to Beaver here, where every woman has to be June Cleaver, and the father has to come home from work at 5 o'clock and have his slippers ready, his cocktail in hand, and a cigar lit. This isn't some joke about how, women used to be culturally assigned to just be the homemaker. No, this is saying that a parent, in an ideal situation, should be raising the children. A parent. Typically, the recipe is one parent, usually the father works. The mother usually stays home and runs the household. That's like the 1950s classic Americana version of this crap. Now, this is the 21st freaking century. If dad wants to stay home because mom's out getting her thing going, and she's slaying and bringing home bacon, whole sides of it, in fact, God bless you, girl. Go do your thing. And stay-at-home dad, you do it, man. You go to those soccer games. Head held high, because that's a hard job. I tell my wife on a daily basis, my wife's a stay-at-home mother, we're very lucky that I'm able to provide that, and we can do that with the help of her family and the help of my family. We've been very blessed. But that's a hard gig, man. We've got 3 little rambunctious boys. One day of her tagging out and me tagging in, and I'm like dead. I'm exhausted. So that is hard work for the parent who chooses to do that. But if we're farming that out, what choice are we making for our culture? What choice are we making for our families? And what are the consequences of those choices? When the heavy lifting of our parenting is being done by the internet and by services that we pay to raise our families for us. Now, this can happen for a multitude of reasons, and it all boils down to individual choice, okay? And I mean that, and I hope this doesn't sound cold or cruel, but it all boils down to individual choice, and I want you to remember that. And I want you to remember that's not an admonishment of the single parents that are out there where circumstances got out of control, but at the end of the day, everything leads back to an individual choice. You choose your standard of living that you are willing to accept. Okay? Some people want a higher standard of living, so they choose to have both people in the marriage work. And that's great. If you can pull it off, that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, if you're making a choice between consigning your kids to what is essentially the 21st century middle class equivalent to boarding school, or you're willing to accept a slightly lower standard of living until they're school-aged or something like that, I'm just saying it's a choice. Single parents, your choices have led you to where you are, and sometimes that sucks. Sometimes that sucks hard. But at the end of the day, it's all choice. We've chosen to be where we are as parents. We've chosen the standard of living that we are willing to accept in our lives. We've chosen the type of culture that we want. And the type of culture that we want has removed God from school, has decreased the overall value of religion, period. Unless it's a religion that feels oppressed, then that religion has value. We've removed individual responsibility such to the extent that we blame everything but the gunman in a situation like this. We're looking to blame the parents. We're looking to blame the gun shop. We're looking to blame the school. We're looking to blame the teachers that didn't notice, the police, the FBI. Did some of them screw up? Yeah. Undeniably. Some of them screwed up big. But at the end of the day, the individual responsibility lies with the gunman, the man, the young man who cold and heartlessly gunned down 17 children and teachers in the coldest possible blood, in the cruelest terms. That is a monster. But what we need to look at as a culture, as a people, individually and collectively, are we creating monsters with our individual choices? And none of that it takes a village crap. None of that they're not your children. They belong to this country or this county or this state or this municipality or this city. No. They're my kids. They're your kids. I take full responsibility for my children. You take full responsibility for your children. We're parents, damn it. It's time to start acting like it. If you're going to be a parent, be a parent. If you're thinking twice about it because you can't make your HOA fee, you got a problem. Maybe you need to move. I know there are some people out there who are parents that probably never should have become parents. Real talk. I'm going to get very, very real with you guys on this episode. Not that I don't normally, but this is starting to piss me off. There are a lot of people out there that have absolutely no business ever having children, and they do anyway. We see it on the news every day. But we have become a culture where it's not right to say that, where we can't criticize each other. Otherwise, it's hate. We can't express a different opinion on the news of the day, or we get struck down by the social media gods. Well, those aren't the gods that I ascribe to. I worship only one God. But I do remember one reference to gods in a plural that I feel is apt. That as long as water will wet us, and as long as fire will burn, the gods of the copybook headings. I believe the line is, with fire and terror return. Somebody can correct me on my quote. I'm sure they will. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dig a little deeper in our overall discussion of our dying American culture that seems to be willfully committing suicide en masse. We are willfully destroying our own nation. One like, one share, one post and tweet at a time. You're listening to the HoloNet Podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. From Phoenix, Arizona, where I hope we will rise like the mythological bird we're named for. I'm Matt Holloway. Stick around.
fellow citizens. Recent events have imposed upon the patriotic people of this country a responsibility and a duty greater than that of any since the Civil War.
It is the common people of the world that are interested in this business. They know when we have war, it is they that have to bear the burden. It's their sisters and mothers and daughters that have to wait, trembling, to hear the news.
We are called as a people to give testimony in the sight of the world to our faith that the future shall belong to the free. Since this century's beginning, a time of tempest has seemed to come upon the continents of the earth.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. And let me remind you also that moderation in the pursuit of justice is no virtue.
I want the people of America to be able to work less for the government and more for themselves. I want them to have the rewards of their own industry. This is the chief meaning of freedom. Until we can reestablish a condition under which the earnings of the people can be kept by the people, we are bound to suffer a very severe and distinct curtailment of our liberty.
You're listening to the HoloNet podcast on the Lanterns Media Network. The new conservative resistance begins right here, right now.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Allied reinforcements have arrived from the west.
You're listening to the HoloNet on Lanterns Media Network. The millennial conservative resistance begins here.
Welcome back. You're listening to the HoloNet podcast here on the Lanterns Media Network. I'm your host, Matt Holloway. If you want to join the conversation, we are streaming live on Facebook right now on facebook.com/HoloNet. You can, again, check that out, facebook.com/HoloNet. Tweet at the HoloNet. We're also on Speak Out and YouTube. You'll be able to find this video posted later on today and listen to us on iTunes, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, any other podcast software, really. Always pick us up. Glad to have you. Pretty heavy first half hour of the show. And I warned you it was going to be. So I did warn you. I did knock. But it's a heavy conversation that we need to have. It really is. As a conservative, I've always viewed our fight as the good fight. I've often talked about holding the line against the night. Here at Lanterns, our motto is that we're here to fix the machine. In order to do both of those things, we first have to fix ourselves. So if you're listening to the show or you're watching online, if you're within the sound of my voice at all, I want you to grip the mirror hard, and I want you to ask yourself, am I being the best parent that I can be? Am I giving my children the amount of time that they need, the amount of emotional, spiritual, and knowledge-based guidance that they need every day? Am I holding myself individually responsible for their conduct, their growth, and their behavior? And I'd like to say that 100% of the time that I do, but I'm not perfect. I constantly strive to be better. And I'm blessed to be married to a woman who makes me better in many ways than I am already. We complement each other well. Do you and your partner or your spouse have that same back and forth where they complement your weaknesses? Where they fill in your gaps to make you overall a better person? If that's the case, that's what we need to be teaching our children. We need to be teaching our children the value of life. And in a country where we've ended millions upon millions of lives every day since the 1960s in the name of choice, in the name of an illusory right to determine what is and is not human life, we have a severe cultural problem. We have a sickness. In a world where a eugenicist murderess like Margaret Sanger is celebrated, and pro-life advocates are vilified, where climate change, which many view to be scientifically dubious, a scam at worst, or not as severe a problem at best, is the biggest thing on people's minds. We're ignoring the fact that we're slaughtering millions of babies every day. And one of the most obtuse tweets that I saw, actually I think it was on Facebook, said the GOP wouldn't care about the 17 children lost unless the school were a uterus. I may be paraphrasing that incorrectly. I apologize if so. But suggesting that we only care about abortion, that we're a one-issue group of people. And I don't know about the Republican Party. I find my faith in the Republican Party waning and waning by the day. But I can tell you that conservatives, by and large, especially those of the pro-life movement, tend to be relatively consistent in their veneration of human life. I don't care if you're 17 weeks along in pregnancy or 17 years old. There's value to human life. There's an intrinsic value to a human soul. It exists in every form that matters. Oh, then how can you possibly believe in the death penalty? Because there are some crimes where there's no punishment big enough. Murdering 17 people in cold blood for the lulz. You're damn right. That's a situation that calls for the death penalty. Because there is no punishment big enough for that. Pol Pot, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, genocidal maniacs, Slobodan Milosevic, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. These are men where I don't believe anyone in the world could argue with the death penalty for them. Because they murdered on such a scale as it has to be set apart from all others. But this sick gunman in Florida, 17 people? Yeah, that's a death penalty. One person in cold blood. The Bible teaches us that we shouldn't do eye for an eye, that we should turn the other cheek, and that vengeance belongs to God. Depending on your reading, there are also parts of the Bible that governments have tapped for legitimacy for centuries, where the language is more like God's justice be done. That's a theological debate. But I have to say, from the seat of this constitutional conservative, yes, there are crimes for which death is the only price. And this was one of them. But our culture is damaged. Our culture is dying. Every day. What are you going to do to defend it? What are you going to do to protect it? Are you going to support your Second Amendment by walking around the state capitol strapped with 2 on each hip, 1 down here by the knee? You got your underslung in your armpit. You got your AR-15 on your back, so you get your picture in the paper, and you blast it all over social media, and you get 16 straight accounts banned, and you have to re-sign up in order to get any kind of viewership. Are you going to do that? Is that you defending our American culture? Are you going to get out in front of a Planned Parenthood clinic and march with a sign that actually has the macabre images of a dead fetus on it, and you're going to shove that in the face of everybody who tries to pull in the driveway to make a K-turn? Yeah, that happened to me once, by the way. We were actually going for an ultrasound at the building next door to the Planned Parenthood clinic, and that happened. My wife and I are both pro-life. We were expecting at the time. That was freaking horrifying. We didn't even know it was a Planned Parenthood clinic. I was just popping a K-turn in the driveway. Weird. Anyway, I digress. I'm getting very fired up today. If that's the way you think you fix our culture, I got a bridge in northern Arizona. I'd love to sell you 1 brick at a frickin' time. Okay? The way we need to fix our culture is through our children. Teach them in the way that they should go. We need to start playing the long game, kids. Because the progressive left has been doing it for a frickin' century. And they took over education first. Hearts and minds, man. The victor gets to write the history books. Well, the thing is, if you're writing the history books, you get to decide what history is. And if you teach that history, you can put any spin on it you want. And we yielded the floor on education, and we yielded the floor on social media, on YouTube, on all these emerging media formats without contestation. We have lost the battle for 3 generations at least of children, my own included. Hell, you have to get to people my parents' age and older before you get people who were raised right. There's about a percentage, and you know, this is just me anecdotally from people I've met, of millennials who actually have their head screwed on right. And I'm not talking about left versus right, okay? There are people that are chest-thumping Bernie Sanders bros, but they're decent, and they got their head screwed on right, and they actually believe in individual responsibility. Got a couple of friends who do. Great people. Respect them. Disagree with them. Argue like hell. But I respect them. But like 1 in 10 millennial actually has their head screwed on right. Without a truly skewed worldview where they're entitled to absolutely everything. And there's like 3 generations of this. Kids from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s now are psychologically borked. I mean, they are screwed in the head. I'm going to have to pull it down maybe for a future show, but there's a great quote from the movie Broken Arrow. Nick Cage and John Travolta side by side. The one character's name is Deakins. And Nick Cage looks at Deakins in the climactic fight and goes, "You're effed in the head, Deke. You're effed in the head." That's the problem with our children right now. Effed in the head. Through Prague liberal education, a complete and total lack of any individual responsibility on the part of the parents, on the part of the teachers, infused in them as a child. No concept of real-world consequences. No idea of the value of a human life. No moral grounding. You know, I know people who went to Sunday school every week, went to church every week of their whole childhood, right up until they're like teenagers, and then the parents said, okay, you can decide for yourself from now, because I did my job, and I gave you a moral grounding in what is right, and now you can make your own choices. If you want to go off and be a Jew instead, you can go be a Jew. If you want to be a Jehovah's Witness, you can go be a Jehovah's Witness. If you want to be an agnostic, if you want to be an atheist, if you want to be a Muslim, whatever you want to do, I did my job right. I got you to confirmation. From there, it's your call, buddy. And you know, you provided a moral stone to stand on, something that's a base of which you can compare everything else. And if you don't do that, and I don't care if it's church, I don't care if it's just you providing that infusion of moral guidance, building that base, that strong foundation upon which they can build a skyscraper that reaches out and touches the face of God. If you don't provide that foundation, that's when you wind up with 17 bodies on a schoolyard in Florida. Our culture is dying because we're allowing it to. One kid at a time. One missed soccer game. One skipped a recital. One homework assignment where you tell them to Google it. One afternoon the kid spends on YouTube instead of playing with you. We're missing our kids' childhoods so that we can continue our own, selfishly. The fault is not in our stars, but in ourselves. Grip the mirror, America. We don't need gun control. We don't need bullet control. We don't need an assault rifle ban. We don't need a longer waiting period. We need to be better parents. Better stewards of our future. We need to be better people. I was going to say better Christians. So if you're a Christian, you need to be a better Christian. If you're a Jew, be a better Jew. If you're a Muslim, be a better Muslim. Be better. Teach your children the way they should go. Teach them to value life. Value their culture. If you value the American culture, fantastic. I want you to teach them to value the American culture. If you value your heritage because you have a proud lineage and you're proud that your children are Mexican American or African American or Irish American, if you value your heritage, teach them to value that. Teach them that they're part of a chain that leads all the way back to Adam and Eve. Teach them that every link in that chain, every life that was lived mattered. And that their life matters. And the lives of everyone around them matter. That all lives matter. That race is meaningless. That there is no equality of outcome. There's only equality of opportunity. And that America is great because Americans are good. Teach them these things. And maybe we can start to turn things around. But we are 3 generations behind the 8 ball. That's 3 generations of people who just don't care enough. Or just don't know what to do, so they hire somebody else to do it. who choose a more comfortable life over a more meaningful life. Man, this is a really heavy episode. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. I might pull this whole thing down. I got to think on it and I got to pray on it. I think you should too. Our American culture is dying because we're letting it. As we're not doing the right things to stop it and to make it better. So you know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to shut off the couple $1,000s of equipment I got sitting around here. Shut off the computers. Leave my phone inside. Unplug the social media for a while. Get my kids up from their afternoon nap. And I'm going to go play with my freaking kids. Go forth and do likewise. Good night. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. For the Lanterns Media Network, I'm your host, Matt Holloway.
You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at lanterns.buzz. For great radio, get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.